The dangers of knowledge. I've talked often about how knowledge is this most important thing, where Socrates stated that ignorance is this root evil and knowledge is this root good. And I've basically taken that premises and said, this is my philosophy. Let's really understand why knowledge is essential and why everybody needs to learn and educate so we can evolve the world and all this stuff, right? Ending slavery. A lot of great messages I talk about on my channel, and it's shared across many other individuals. It's not coming from just myself. People see there's an evolution necessary in humanity. So let's put that out of the way for a moment and let's look at the opposite perspective. Not to say let's be ignorant, but rather there's dangers with knowledge. And first off, if I say that the knowledge of nature is what makes nature good, or understanding how we harmonize with the universe, that might be, if you look at it through the lens of danger, like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of reality. I'm afraid of truth. And many people might be afraid of truth or reality. They might be like, wow, this is really powerful knowledge. It's dangerous. Or I don't know if I can embrace this in my life at this moment because I'm in such an illusion. Or maybe they want to be ignorant, and so they fear the knowledge, and therefore, because they perceive it as a danger, they don't come to embrace it. There's a lot of perspectives among those lines which you can look at, but there's also this dangers with knowledge if you have knowledge and you embrace it, and other people want to remain ignorant, and you have to sit there and be like, oh shoot, how am I going to bring it to them? How am I going to open up their own eyes? I mean, they have to open up their own eyes. They have to be the one to give themselves knowledge, right? I could be a teacher, I can guide, I can coach, and this is what I can do, and I can offer my guidance, but doesn't mean that they'll accept. And so there's many different perspectives you can take among these lines, but it's not just dangerous in terms of power, because people like to say that knowledge is power. Indeed it is, and I have a whole video talking about the nature of money, which I'd recommend checking it out, because a lot of people talk about economics and money, and that's like taking up the focal point of society. But I really traced it down and said, no, it's knowledge that's more important. Like, what do you do with that money? Why are you attaining that money? Why do you see money as this value or essential thing in your life? I mean, all that is the matter of your consciousness, your awareness, your knowledge, all these things that I usually just sort of group together because they all work together in a sense, right? You have to be aware to attain knowledge, to be open to knowledge, to be critical of knowledge. And that is just achieving more and more knowledge because it never really ends. You find out that the more you know, the less you know. And this is just sort of how Socrates also came to that conclusion. That's a whole nother quote from him, right? But here's the thing, when you have knowledge, you also remember what other people don't, and that could be helpful, but it could also be frustrating. If you keep the past with you and you keep that knowledge that you had from your previous experiences with you, which is good for your future, it can also feel like a burden if you're always holding on to that and you remember it and it always comes back to mind. Unless, of course, like you have a hard time embracing it. This is something that I've struggled with. And it's not to brag and be like, oh my gosh, guys, I have a really good memory. But everybody to some extent has some traumas or something they have to face. And for me, there's this knowledge of my past that tends to come back to me. And it constantly comes back. I'm like looking at the past. And I'm like, wait, why am I looking at the past if I'm right now in the present? And so this is a problem of knowledge, because you can remember the exact scenery, this person, that thing, and then you could be like, oh, shoot, well, I don't have that anymore. Or, and so a sense of attachment or desire, or you attach other things to knowledge, and that's what makes it dangerous. That's where it can get really tricky. You got to be careful. Are you present? Are you meditating? And something I like to do is Tai Chi. I've been practicing with it a bit, There are people who do use it for martial arts, but it's typically usually a health practice, and it could be very helpful. Just being out in nature, feeling in the elements. You can do this anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter if you traveled here or there in the past, future, in the present, anywhere in the world. Go out in nature. You have it accessible anywhere. Everywhere, right? And it's just a matter of like finding those places that you really enjoy, because there's tons of places. And I've went from season to season, and there's a lot I could say I miss, but I don't have to miss it if I stay present. And I say, hey, this is a new experience. This is a new awareness. And I'm not stuck on the past. I'm not stuck on that previous knowledge that has kept my mind so wrapped up and attached for so long, because being able to get away from that attachment is more freedom, more enlightenment, being able to see more different paths, different people. And that's what I see. I went down south to Florida from Pennsylvania in the United States, and I'm like, wow, the people are different, the environment's different. And this is a learning experience, just like anything else in life, right? This is not something of me like just trying to project or be like a blog and share my experiences, though I do like to make a heartfelt message once in a while to you guys on my channel rather than all the green screen productions, because not just knowledge, but human decency and sense is important. Somebody can come up to you with all the knowledge in the world and a bunch of textbooks, but if they can't deliver to you as a human being, that can also be a problem. So the danger is not so much with the knowledge, but also how the knowledge is delivered, right? Are you asking questions? Are you curious? Are you helping the individual attain their enlightenment for themselves? Like I said, because you can't really open someone's eyes for them. You try to do that, that can be really harmful. It's not helpful. It's violating personal boundaries. It's not something that you should do. So you can try and force people to be good, but as history has shown, you can't force someone to be good. You can only teach them. This is why people are starting to realize, wait, government is not helping people. It's not protecting people. It's actually doing the exact opposite. But yet it claims to be protecting people. Whoa, what's going on? This is a contradiction. A lack of knowledge, because there's ignorance on part of, oh, well, government got this handled. Oh, well, we have this service. Oh, well, government, because this and this and that. And they take these assumptions for granted. I tend to question a lot of things that people will just take assumptions for. Oh, this food is healthy. Chlorella and this vegan food and this kale, it's like, no, this has oxalates. It can still be harmful for people. Vegan, it's like, it can still be malnourishment. It may not be local. It may still be exported across the world. There might still be harm in the process. Like, if we're not able to see the dependencies and the cofactors and the environments, we lack the bigger picture. And this is something I've been talking about on my channel for a while. You can just go back to some of my other videos where I'm talking to the camera like this. It's often me just opening the mind and getting people to think, and that's all I can ever do. So hopefully you like that, because I'm not teaching you anything new. I'm not sharing with you new knowledge. I'm sharing with you new perspectives so you can attain knowledge for yourself, which again, only you can really do. You can only go through that process of enlightenment through facing your own shadows, facing your own traumas, your own boundaries, and then getting past that for yourself so you can have an open mind, so you can learn, so you can have knowledge. And your mind can get quite cluttered at times, especially in this world. You can look around and there's all this mass advertisement and mass ideas and mass people. You can get cluttered quite easily. And this is something just to keep in mind, right? Like right now, I can look at myself and be like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to a camera. I got this headset on. I know the first time I was doing video content creation, I was like, look at this. I'm looking at a camera. This is kind of weird, right? But then as you get used to it, you say, oh, well, I'm just in the present. This is what I do, and it's normal. But you get superstitious when you're first doing it because you're like, I've never done this before. So again, trying to embrace the present, going with the flow of things, not necessarily the flow of bad things, but being able to do what you want to do with ease, effortlessly, right? And this, of course, goes back to Taoism again, but you can reminisce so much, and memories will come back to haunt you if you have this constant knowledge like I'm talking about, especially of that which was lost or has been enjoyed. And there's things you're going to lose in life, and you need to recognize that you're going to lose them, or possibly going to lose them. More of a reason to savor it and tread carefully upon your path and care for the things that you currently have. I mean, I can't say this enough, how many times I've met people who've had this experience or that experience, and it's life-changing because, and some people, it's like, yeah, well, I mean, I could expect it in some ways, but are you really being preventative? Are you really taking care of yourself? Because you can be like, oh man, this thing shouldn't have happened to someone else, but then look at yourself. Are you taking care of yourself and other people around you, doing your best that you can do? See, sensitivity works hand in hand with knowledge. Awareness works hand in hand, because when you're seeing more, when you're feeling more, when you're seeing the good and bad in health and all the different people and environments, you're able to understand more. And you remember the feeling of falling. Like, if you have really good knowledge of different sensories, right? You're a very sensitive person like me. Man, I would go skiing, I would go in bed, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm falling down a hill every 5 seconds. Like, I still got that feeling within me. I don't eat junk food anymore, but I could remember the taste of like Reese's peanut butter cups. I could remember the taste of cereals that I had. I used to have like Crave, like this chocolate filled cereal. I used to eat Lucky Charms every day. I thought it would make me lucky. I mean, like every single day, I fell for that propaganda, right? I fell to that ignorance, and I look back at that, and I now have knowledge, and I'm able to see it, right? Now I feel bad for the people who are gullible, who maybe are like maybe growing their own food or cooking their own food, but then they're using ingredients that they don't realize that have cancer-causing chemicals in it. It's not their fault. They're doing their best, and then it's just lurking in their small places of ignorance where they're not looking. It's like, do you expect people to be looking everywhere all the time, to be like, oh my gosh, what's in this, what's in this, what's in that? I'm not asking you to do that, but in this world, it seems like that's becoming more of the requirement. Because you look around you and you look at the studies and you're like, wow, this causes cancer, this causes cancer, this causes cancer. And then some people just say everything causes cancer, and that just gives them a reason to dismiss everything. So it's not about being paranoid, but it's also not about being completely naive. It's being able to recognize what's important to you in your life and realize that the risks you take are your own, and you have to accept that as a responsibility and part of yourself. And you can have knowledge that means of the dangers of knowledge. You can have knowledge of knowledge. Like realizing, wait, there isn't one way to knowledge, or realizing that the knowledge you have is still not the knowledge that you can have, and that there's ever more knowledge to attain. And so knowledge is not really knowledge, it's just forever learning. And then you just end up in a bunch of contradictions, because that is the world we live in. It's a world contradictory when you look at the bigger picture, but it's a world so eye-opening and mind-busting when you are able to see that. And I wonder how many people will get to that conclusion in their awakening process, where they start realizing, wait, the world is not the way it is. There's an illusion, there's a matrix, whatever they want to call it. And then later down the road, they realize, okay, even the online textbooks, even what I read online, even the philosophers, all of it, no. I don't need that. That's all an illusion. Everything's an illusion. Now, I'm not saying that that's the position that you should reach. I'm saying that it's being able to have an open mind past all of the different rabbit holes and things you can get stuck and attached into, including the ones that you create. Like, I create naturosophy. There's anarchy and voluntarism and the Liberator too. It's like, I'm not attached to any one of these things. They're projects of my own, but they don't encompass who I am individually. There's symbols. Oh, look, there's symbols on the wall, and there's a nature is the answer flag, and I talked about that for years on my channel, saying this is what we need, a movement to help spark the ideas. I still believe that. But the point is that you can't make that your identity. You can't choose to say, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do. Like, you can have it as part with you, but don't forget yourself. Don't forget who you are. I saw people at the beach recently, because I'm in Florida. It's great, you can see beaches, and everybody's got their phone out. Oh my gosh, look, it's a sunset. Everybody's got a phone out. I'm like looking at them, and I'm like, I walked up to some, and I'm like, oh my gosh, gonna make sure I get my phone out just to joke around. And it's like, holy moly. It's like, do people see the sunset for their own eyes, or do they have to see it through a screen? And why not enjoy that moment, right? Why not? And so these are the things I want people to think about, because it serves as an allegory for life, that if you fall, you can get back up, you can learn to walk, right? In the same way, when you see things through a screen or through technology or through an illusion, you can see past it and see much more. And being able to emerge and to enlighten and to evolve is this constant process, okay? And it is then just constant destruction, in a sense, of moving forward, pushing back, moving forward, pushing back, moving forward, like a pendulum swing to going to that direction, and or maybe even just trying to line up, right, with the line, and just trying to get it perfectly through the middle. When you're on the road, so you're not swerving all over the place. You're just trying to, I gotta find my balance here. You're on the tightrope. I'm trying to find my balance. That's what we're doing. And so the great tool for a lot of people when it comes to, like I said, this danger of knowledge or this danger of anything in this life would be then that present presence awareness. Not just presence in the sense of you are aware, but presence in the fact that you are here right now. And therefore, the knowledge you can attain is right now and for the future. Doesn't mean you disregard the past. The past and the future, of course, all these work together, but there only is the present. There only is the present. Okay, so there may have been a past. We don't disregard it. There's going to be a future, absolutely. But the only thing that we can live in, the only thing we can change is the present. And I know there's many people who talked about that, but then they leave out a lot of the other things I also talked about. So something to bear in mind, and not something to keep on your mind, something to just get you thinking for your future present mind. Thank you very much for watching. Corey at the Ninjalot, Nature is the Answer.